15-minute client podcast. Very excited to have you here on this beautiful Friday morning. And in today's podcast, I'm talking to you about a very, very hot topic, a topic that I consistently talk to about my clients, and that is increasing your show up rate for your calls. Okay. So we're going to give you in this episode 8 ways to increase and improve your show up rate. Actually, you know what? I've just thought of a 9th way. So we'll say 9th way. Okay, I'm going to chuck this in right now. It's going to be an action-packed episode. All right. So 9 ways. Now, just before you do, if you've been following along on my product launch series, right? This is another quick tip before we get into the 9 ways to increase show up rate in today's episode. What I'm actually doing with that product I'm launching, which of course is called the Facebook Application Ads Bootcamp, is I am, as one of the lessons, so one of the lessons is going to be 9 ways to increase show up rate. And you know what I'm going to be doing? I'm going to be sending my customers, the coaches who have bought that program, to this episode right here, right? I'm actually doing that with a few lessons. So specifically have a call to action in a few of my lessons to come and listen to my podcast. Why? To increase my subscribers. So for all of those customers that are now listening to this, if you haven't subscribed to the 15-Minute Client Podcast, everyone listening in right now can attest, and you can also see the reviews as well on my Google profile, because that's where I get people to review. That it is a valuable podcast. So if you haven't yet subscribed, go and subscribe. And also, let's get stuck into the 9 ways to increase your show up rate. Okay, so just a small tip, by the way, for your own courses and programs to get it's okay to send people to your podcast to listen to some lessons, because there's a lot of great content in here. So I thought, you know what, instead of recreating a whole nother lesson of what I said in a podcast episode, why not just send them to the actual episode, and that will actually get me more subscribers as well. Okay, cool. So anyway, that's one side tip. Let's get into the nine ways to increase your show up rate. Okay, so I want to start with like the most obvious, and then we'll go into kind of some less obvious, more kind of creative ideas. Okay, so first one, most obvious is, you want to solve a painful problem. Okay, now if they are if they're booking appointments in your calendar, generally it means you're solving a problem that they want to have solved. Otherwise, they are otherwise they're not going to book in your calendar. But again, I'm just throwing this out there that you want to make sure that the problem that you are solving is going to be important for them, important enough for them to show up to a call. Okay, so that's really important. We're going to come back to that right at the end. To give you some more ideas around that, because that's literally the most important one. It's like, obviously you got to be, if you don't have something that they want to show up for, then there's no point in going through the rest of what we are about to discuss. Okay, so next, number 2, and this is really critical, and this is especially critical for cold traffic. Okay, now if you're getting people coming from a referral or a Facebook group, this doesn't generally apply as much. Or like your email list, right? And that tip is, don't let them book more than 2 days out. Okay, so again, if they're coming from your email list or like a warm traffic source referral, you can book them in 3, 4, 5 days a week out, and generally they will show up because they've been referred, or they might have a relationship with you from your list. They already know you, right? So they're invested in the relationship. So that's why the show up rates from warm traffic is higher. But if you're running paid traffic, okay, these people don't know you, they're not invested in the relationship, you don't want to let them book out like 4, 5, 6 days out. That you'll see that your no-show rate dramatically increases. This is probably the number 1 way to increase your show up rate, other than having choosing a problem they actually want solved, is to don't let them book too far out. Okay, I mean, ideally, you'd have them book in the same day and you'd call them then. But my calendar system and most calendar systems are defaulted to where you can't book the same day. You can change that, by the way. But yeah, if you have a sales team, I would let them book in on the same day. But yeah, generally no more than 2 days out. So that means when they see the availability, they'll see tomorrow and the day after. I guess that might be 3 days technically. So 3 days technically, and then they can't book the day of because you've probably already got your calendar full and you've got work schedule and whatever. So, but yeah, if you can, decrease the window where, like, so my window I think is maybe 12 hours or so. So if I go to sleep at, say, whatever it is, 8 o'clock, then they're not going to be booking in. Well, I guess 12 hours maybe is a little bit longer, right? You don't want to wake up and have things in your schedule that you didn't realize you want to have. So that's why there's that 24-hour block off. But if you can decrease that, that can really help, because speed to lead is really critical, especially with B2C. Okay, if you're in B2C, you're helping things like weight loss, dating, relationships. I've got a client helping with cancer. I've got a client that helps men and women who have lost a spouse, right? So that's B2C. You're selling to a consumer. Those markets generally, people opt in or they book on emotion, and then if you don't get to them as quickly as possible, generally that emotion dies down quite quickly. Versus B2B, when you're solving a specific like business problem, whatever that is, they're in business, and it's not like that problem goes away 2 days later or whatever. So that's why B2B, generally the show-up rates are a bit better than B2C, or you don't have to be as stringent with the time frame. But yeah, B2C is critical that you don't let them book too far out, because that emotion goes down quite quickly. Okay, so ideally 2 days out, which means that you may have to, in the beginning, you may have to have like a couple of hours like on a Saturday or something. So that way, if people are looking at your calendar, like if they're coming from your ads and they're seeing your calendar on a Friday, right? If they're seeing your calendar on a Friday, if they're seeing your calendar on a Friday, it means that there will be spots on a Saturday, right? Because if you've got no spots on a Saturday, then they're not going to see any availability at all until they come back on the Saturday, if that makes sense. So that's why the 2-day window can be, it means that you may have to have some weekend availability in the beginning, and that's okay, because you're just getting started and you want to make sales, right? And so block off allow a couple of hours on a Saturday morning, and that way, the point is that way when people are coming from your ads, they're always going to see availability in your calendar, right? So you obviously don't want to be sending people to your calendar and there's no availability, because you're just basically wasting money with your ads. Okay, so that's the next one is the 2-day test, right? Test with the 2-day, 3-day window, and you'll notice, like, if 3 days, 4 days, people will show up less and less. So maybe start with a 3-day, and see if you can get away with that. So that way you don't have to open the Saturday availability. But as I said, if you're like in B2C and you notice that the show-up rate is quite low, then I would reduce it to a 2-day window. Okay, and that is like I said, rather than solving a painful problem, that's the best way to increase the show-up rate. And the third way, obviously, is very critical. Again, throwing this out there, but a lot of coaches don't have this, and that is reminders, right? So what I'm doing right now is I'm going to log into my calendar system, and I'm going to take you through my reminders. Okay, so basically every calendar system will have the ability to send out reminders, so email reminders and text reminders. I use Acuity Scheduling. Calendly or Schedule Once, they'll be able to do it as well. Other calendar systems generally can email and text, and you want to use both of those. Okay, so you want to send an email confirmation. Every calendar will send an email confirmation when they book. So that's number one. Number two, you want to do a 24-hour reminder. Number three, you want to have a 3-hour reminder, or some people have a 1-hour reminder. I like to have a 3-hour reminder. I think 3 hours is a little bit better to just in case I have to move things around. And then I do a 3-hour text as well. Okay. So you've got the initial confirmation, 24-hour reminder, 3-hour reminder, and the 3-hour text. Okay. So now here's the thing with the email reminders, I literally say the exact same thing in every email. All I'm doing is I'm reminding them of why they booked in. I'm just reminding. I'm not doing any, yes, you can have like maybe a little call to action to like some testimonials or something, which I'll go through in a second, but let me show you. So here's my main sales call. Okay, it's called the 7-Figure Marketing Plan with Luke Charlton. So So basically in that the first email, this is the confirmation email. I say, hey, you're all booked for the upcoming 7-figure marketing plan session, and on date and time, whatever that is, the calendar system will put that in. On this call, we're gonna map out a customized plan to help you bring in some more high-paying clients. Moreover, any plan we give you will be based on proven frameworks we've used with our other clients to help them get to 30K a month without any complex funnels. Important, make sure to bring a pen and paper to write down some notes for your customized strategy. That way you remember all the details on how you can implement it in your own business. Finally, please note we'll be connecting via Zoom. I look forward to seeing you. Okay, and here's the link. I have the Zoom link as well. PS, while you're waiting, why don't you listen to my podcast? So I just have a little PS and I send them to my podcast. Now you can have if you don't have a podcast, you can have a PS, hey, here's some great testimonials, or here's a free training or whatever. You don't have to have that. The most important thing is you have a reminder, okay? Now, that's my initial confirmation. The reminder, the 24-hour reminder, listen to this. It's basically exactly the same. Hey, in just 24 hours, we have our 7-figure marketing plan session together. It's booked on, and the calendar system inserts the time. On this call, I'm going to map out a customized plan to help you bring in more high-paying clients. Moreover, any plan I give will be based on proven frameworks I've used with other clients to help them get to 30K a month and beyond without complex funnels. Important, please make sure to bring a pen and paper. Again, so I'm saying the exact same thing. Why? Because I want to remind them why they booked in the first instance. So whatever message you're using to generate the appointment, the confirmation email should just should remind them of that message, because that's why they booked in. So that's all I'm doing. And then in the 3-hour email, I say the exact same thing. The only difference is at the beginning, I say, in just 3 hours, we have our 7-figure marketing plan session together, right? So again, that's saying the exact same thing, just to remind them again why they booked in, right? So whatever call they're booked in for, and just remind them that promise. What are they getting out of the call? That main outcome, the reason why they're booked in. Just remind them of that. And then with the text, the 3-hour text is super simple. I just use the default calendar system. Again, it's just a reminder. My text is appointment reminder, 7-figure marketing plan session with Luke is on at March 15 at 7 p.m. whatever. So that's it. And so that's basically it. So you want to have those reminders go out. The next one is when they book in, Acuity scheduling and Calendly and most calendar systems now, you can actually create a form, like a customized form. One of the questions you can ask, so obviously they'll have name, email, phone number as the default, but you can add your own questions. One of the things you can do, these are the small tweaks you can do to kind of increase show up rate. And I learned this from a mentor of mine, sales guy named Temple. So thanks for Temple for this. On his Calendly, and I've since added it to some of my clients, is basically, so you have a tick box, right? Will you 100% be able to make your selected time, ? And then in brackets, if not, please select a new time or do not schedule the call, okay? So basically it's just a commitment. Again, you're asking them to, even though that you would think them booking in is the commitment, it's just another way to tie them down, okay? Now, speaking of tie downs, one of the ways you can increase show up rate is doing a double tie down. So what that means is if you do outbound, which again, the customers listening to this who have bought my Facebook application ads program, bootcamp, they will be doing outbound. You want to do a double tie down, and I talk about this in the actual program, but I'm just reminding them and also explaining what this is to those that don't know what this is. And I learned this from Cole Gordon actually. So you do a double tie down. So basically, if you do outbound and you book them in, what you want to do is just go, okay, so I've got my calendar here. Hey, John, you're on Eastern time. Okay, cool. So I've got 3 p.m. tomorrow or 5 p.m. on Friday. Like, what's good for you? 3 p.m. Okay, cool. So you can make 3 p.m. Great. So booking you in, book them in. All right, John, I've got you booked in for 3 p.m. I'll see you at 3 p.m. on Friday. Yeah. So notice how I asked them twice, right? That's called a double tie down, where you get them to confirm and then you get them to confirm again. Okay, so that's a double tie down. Again, these are like the 1% of things that go to boosting your show up rate. Small things, but again, the main thing is don't let the book too far out. Make sure you're solving a painful problem. Have email reminders. These are the critical ones. What I'm going through now are really small small things that you can do to increase show up rate. Now, the other things, so do a double tie down. So make sure you get them to confirm twice that they will be showing up. Now, the next one is you can, so speaking of, having a customized form, right? So I mentioned with the question that you can ask, the tick box, will you 100% be able to make the selected time? Another way to increase show up rate is to have an app, is to kind of ask more questions, right? And I've spoken before, I think it was episode 231 called the perfect program application or something, where I went through how to do a good application. This is where you've got to be careful. So you don't want to ask too many questions, but here's the thing, the more questions you ask, the more serious that they are about getting this problem solved, right? So you can imagine, just for an extreme example, let's say I have a calendar that you can book into. Let's say my calendar, right? I'm helping a coach get more clients. One option is, they just put in their name, email, and phone number, and that's it, right? So I send people to that calendar. All I have to do is enter the name, email, phone number to book it on my calendar. Then another option is I send people to, they can book a spot in my calendar, but they have to ask 100 questions about their business, right? Everything you can imagine, sales process, what are your numbers, and could you imagine if someone actually went through that and answered 100 questions? Do you think they're in pain? Of course, right? Because they've gone to the effort to fill out that whole application. So that's the great thing about asking more questions in an application. The more questions you ask, the more committed that person will be, the more pain that they're in, yeah? But the downside is the more questions you ask, the more expensive your leads are going to be. So there's a balance there. You don't want to just add in 100 questions. That was an extreme example. You want to maybe just add in 1 or 2 extra questions, hey, what are you struggling with most? Or again, go back to that episode 231 where I think it's 231, the perfect program application, and I talk about key demographic type questions. So I'll just start there. What are key qualification type questions that you want to know about your prospect? Start there. And then, as I said, you can always add more. And the more you add, the more committed they will be, because the more effort it takes to fill out, to book into your calendar, basically. So you can just ask more questions before the call. Be careful, because it can drive up lead costs, okay? Or, booking costs. Now, another thing that you can do is, if you have a bad no-show rate, is you can literally, once they book into your calendar, you can call them, do outbound. So you could pick up, let's say you're doing an inbound strategy, right? So you're driving people from your ads and they book into your calendar, and let's say they book in tomorrow or the day after. Well, if you've got time, why not just call them right now? Just give them up and say, hey, hey John, this is Luke here. I just saw you booked into my calendar, but I got a few minutes now if you want to do that call, right? So literally that's it. So the point is speed to lead, right? So if you have some time and they're booked in, just give them a call. Just say, hey, I had a few minutes now. I saw you booked in. Do you want to do the call now if you've got some time? So that's a great way to increase show up rate if you've got some spare time, or if you've got a sales team as well. Now, the other thing that I haven't tried this personally, but I saw it in an ad from a guy that has been successful with running gyms, actually. And so what he did, so with gyms, because it's a weight loss B2C, the lead goes cold. He would drive ads to get people to come into his gym, right? To create a weight loss plan and maybe sign up to his gym. And what he would do is maybe an hour before they were meant to come into the gym and get their weight loss plan or whatever, he would text them and he'd say hey Jenny, really looking forward to our meeting, in an hour. Hey, I've got a gift for you. I've got a free t-shirt or a protein shaker. Which one do you want? And so the point is, he would give a gift. He would give an option of 2 gifts, to remind them about the meeting, and also as a kind of a bribe to get them into to make sure that they showed up. Okay, so I thought that was a pretty cool idea, and something that I would share with the coach, with you and the coaches listening in, to say, this is something that you might be able to test for your own business. Maybe you have 2 like a free training that you can gift them for showing up, or maybe you can offer them 2 different products. Like, hey, I've got I'm really looking forward to our meeting in an hour, and I wanted to share with you. I've got a couple of products that I have that I'd love to gift you. When I say product, it could literally be like a 30-minute webinar presentation or whatever. You can just call it a product. And I've got this one and this one. Which one would you like? And again, just to remind them and kind of bribe them. So just an idea there for you to increase show up rate. And the final one of this list of the 9 ways to increase your show up rate is, and this comes back to the solving a painful problem. It links to that, which is create a better offer. Right, so I call my call like the 7-figure marketing plan. So maybe you give your call a better name, like a game plan. But also, it's not just about the name; it's also like what outcome are they getting for showing up, right? So in relation to the problem, right? So they've got the problem, so solving a painful problem. It always starts with the market, remember, and then what outcome are you promising on this call? If you get a lot of no-shows, maybe what you're promising, like an outcome, is not great. So I have a client, he promises, I will help find you $75,000 in revenue in 45 minutes. Okay, so he sits down with the business and he goes, he basically just points out all of their bits that are breaking down in their business, like your conversion rate here is low, your lead generation is breaking down in this area, which is your conversion rate is costing you this, your lead generation process is costing you this, the fact that you've got a very high turnover is costing you this. If that's costing you $250,000 per year or whatever. So that's how he does it. Anyway, that's the offer, right? So he actually offers a very a very appealing outcome to help this small business find at least 75K in just a 45-minute call for their business. So anyway, the point is, maybe your offer is just not that enticing. Like, it's enough for them to book in the moment, like, oh yeah, I'll book the call, but for them to actually show up, maybe it's just not that appealing. So thinking about how you can strengthen the offer, how do you promise a better outcome from the call? Just having, I see coaches have like, oh, let's jump on a discovery call or just an exploratory call. That's fine in certain contexts, right? Like with warm traffic or a referral. Certain contexts, just a general discovery call is fine. But if you're, again, cold traffic, that people don't know you, want to make that call as enticing as possible. Okay, so those are some ideas on how to increase your show up rate. I am going to end the podcast here. And by the way, if you're one of my customers that's come from the Facebook application ads bootcamp and you haven't subscribed to this podcast, go ahead and subscribe. I'm on iTunes, Spotify, and Stitcher, and got a lot of great feedback from this podcast. So anyway, go ahead and subscribe, and I'll see everyone